I learned a British accent from the comfort of my home without ever having to move to the UK. What made me do this is not because I'm a fan of British English, which I am a little bit, but because our school education system here in Kenya revolves around the British version of the English language. So naturally, things like pronunciation and spelling were expected to be the British version. However, when I saw British people speak on social media, I realized that hardly no one in Kenya speaks the standard British English. Well, I'm not saying that there is a problem with having a Kenyan accent, it's that we were tested on British pronunciation. This set me on a journey to learn more about this topic and making me almost sound like a native speaker. You be the judge. So in this video, I'll share how I got here with this accent and how you too can get it, if you fancy it. First, we have to understand that there are numerous British accents, some of which I find quite challenging to understand, not gonna lie. The accent I'm talking about here is received pronunciation, which is the accent I'm speaking right now, more or less. This is the accent that is classically associated with the BBC and the privileged and educated class in Britain. It is what people refer to mistakenly as the British accent when it's actually one of many accents in the UK. With that said, let's go into it. First is immersion into the accent. This is where you surround yourself with native speakers of the RP accent. For my case, I listened to podcasts and watched TV shows, documentaries whose actors and narrators have got an RP accent. I'm a strong believer that we are products of what we consume. So what you consume should be a theme centered around the things that you like. Otherwise, it will be a grind and you'll eventually burn out. For me, I like nature documentary shows on Nat Geo Wild and BBC Earth. Examples include Savage Kingdom, narrated by Charles Dance on Nat Geo Wild, Planet Earth and A Life on Our Planet, narrated by David Attenborough on BBC Earth. For movies, people talk about Harry Potter, but personally I haven't watched it, so I don't know. I have to mention that we're learning the accent, not necessarily the language. Sounding like a native speaker of the English language, in this case the British English with an RP accent, is through the right pronunciation and choice of words. If you want to level up and sound like one, then you have to diversify the sources of your English language. This is because different circumstances demand a specific way of response in that accent, if you know what I mean. This means listening to British podcasts, watching movies, football analyses if you're a fan of football, stand-up comedies and so on. Also, you might want to find someone to copy because that will make the accent acquisition way faster. Another one is shadowing. This is trying to say sentences and statements like the native speaker. So, for example, you might be watching a video clip and you see someone with an RP accent saying something. Try to say exactly what they said. That is what we call shadowing. This is a little cringe, but hey, you have to know that you're practicing, and practice makes, you know how it goes. Another thing that I did which helped me acquire this accent is practicing speaking. This is where I try to talk about an event, an encounter, describe something, or provide an analysis to something. For example, who is better, this player or this player. You can literally talk about anything. And yes, that would mean talking to yourself sometimes, which is a bit crazy, isn't it? But yeah, you're practicing again. You may want to record yourself if you want to do this because it helps you to keep track of your pronunciation. If you can find someone to practice with, then that would be better. And if you got the money to throw at the problem, you might consider joining language teaching platforms like italki or Lingoda, or hire an accent coach. Number 4 is finding the pronunciation of the words I didn't know or not sure of the pronunciation. We're learning and we will definitely bump into new words. Before this, I used to read words the way I felt they're read, when I should have taken a moment and looked for the correct pronunciation. And you may probably do that as well. Unless you're in medicine where you stumble upon words that you don't know how to pronounce them because they're very difficult and they're not English words anyway, then I think taking a moment to look for the correct pronunciation will help a lot. And lastly, watching YouTubers who teach the RP accent. There are many, but to mention a few, we've got Lucy from English with Lucy, Elliot from ETJ English, and many others who I'm sure you'll find on your journey. However, you might stay away from learning things theoretically all the time, because you have to see or hear those examples from the sources we earlier mentioned. Otherwise, you'll sound like a robot. That's it, and hope you nailed the accent.